Here's your wrestling news for November 21st, 2022, and we're kicking off today with AEW Full Gear, and at last Saturday's event, MJF captured the AEW World Championship from Jon Moxley, but the Salt of the Earth didn't do it alone. During the match, William Regal turned on the Blackpool Combat Club, giving MJF the difference-making brass knuckles, and now we know more about the new pairing. Dave Meltzer reports that Regal's interference is an idea that came straight from Tony Khan and that it's been building for at least the past few weeks on AEW programming. It was noted that MJF and Regal will be the new dominant heel pairing on AEW TV and was compared to Kenny Omega's run with Don Callis. Given that Omega is the longest reigning AEW World Champion, being compared to the Cleaner is a good sign for MJF, so fans may have to get used to him on top with William Regal by his side. Regal's heel turn marked the end of the Blackpool Combat Club as we once knew it, but this wasn't the only idea for the finish of Full Gear. On F4W Online, Meltzer writes that at one point there was another idea for the main event of Full Gear and that influential wrestlers wanted things to go a different way. It was noted that the final result of MJF becoming AEW World Champion was always the plan, but how the Salt of the Earth got the title was up for serious debate. It was not specified what the alternative finish would have been, but we can only imagine that it would not have seen Regal turn on the BCC and side with the new AEW World Champion. Tony Khan was strong on his finish, and given that he's the boss of the company, it was his decision which idea made it to TV. With MJF as the new AEW World Champion, it'll be interesting to see what he and Regal do together, but things were nearly much different at Full Gear 2022. This year has certainly been a whirlwind year for AEW with plenty of highs and plenty of lows, and Full Gear marks the final pay-per-view of the year. While AEW traditionally holds 4 pay-per-views a year, the inclusion of Forbidden Door meant 5 were held this year, but Tony Khan isn't looking to increase that number. When asked this past weekend, Khan said he had no such plans to increase the number of pay-per-views held by AEW, adding, "I've run 5 AEW pay-per-views and 3 ROH pay-per-views, and I don't see them as necessarily competing products. If you're asking about my own personal capacity, I think 5 is a real good number for AEW, and what we've done with Ring of Honor so far with the 3 is really nice." AEW's stance is far different to WWE, who hosts premium live events almost every month, though pay-per-view buys mean far less in Stephanie McMahon's company due to the WWE Network and Peacock. Perhaps if AEW gets a subscription service of their own, things will change, but until then, Tony Khan is happy to let fans wait and give his roster plenty of time to build to pay-per-views. This year has seen multiple champions in AEW go down with injuries, but Tony Khan has been against the idea of merely stripping stars of their hard-earned titles. When CM Punk injured himself in June, Tony Khan introduced an interim AEW World Champion, and Jamie Hayter currently holds the interim AEW Women's World title in Thunder Rosa's absence. These interim championships have allowed title defenses to still happen despite the true champions being hurt, but not everyone is a fan. On Twitter, AEW's very own Shawn Spears said that interim titles are, quote, bull, and said that someone is either the champion or they're not. One of AEW's longest tenured stars, Spears is yet to hold gold, and we wonder if he'd be so against the interim championship concept if he were at risk of being stripped of a title. But what do you think? Are interim championships meaningless, or do they add something special to AEW? Let us know in the comments. Now, ever since it was reported that AEW wanted to buy out CM Punk's contract, there have been rumors of him going to WWE. It's been said that Triple H's attitude to Punk has softened and that he is willing to speak to the 2-time former AEW World Champion, but the game should really think about what his roster wants. That's what Ric Flair believes, at least, as on his To Be the Man podcast, the Nature Boy said he believes a CM Punk WWE return would only bring problems backstage. CM Punk just can't act like he acts in one company and go to the other and act like that and come over and expect to be in the main events. If he was in the main event of WrestleMania, you would have a riot in the locker room. Think about it. He didn't leave on good terms. He didn't leave the other place, AEW, on good terms. CM Punk's return would certainly be a huge deal, but we agree with Flair that there'd be no shortage of full-time superstars annoyed to see the problematic Punk be awarded a main event match. Of course, this all hinges on Punk joining WWE, which hasn't happened just yet, but if he does sign a contract, his position on the card will be something Triple H will have to be very careful with. Over to WWE now, as Jamie Noble has spent years with the company and has worked under many roles. While Noble debuted in the WWE as a wrestler, he has worked since 2009 as a producer, and fans may remember him as part of J&J Security for The Authority. Now, the former Cruiserweight champion is stepping back in the ring, and on social media, Noble confirmed he will compete at the December 11th WWE live event from Charleston, West Virginia. In his statement, Noble said that it will possibly be the last time he ever wrestles, and is glad to do it in his home state and for WWE, the greatest company of all time, as Noble calls them. Noble stopped short of saying this will be his final match, but it certainly seems like the former champion is seeing this as his final hurrah. It was in 2009 that Noble retired from wrestling, citing the multiple injuries that he had accumulated over the years, but he'll now have one final opportunity to show his skills in the ring. We know that Noble will be returning to WWE's Squared Circle very soon, and Ted DiBiase Jr. may not be far behind him. Debuting on the main roster in 2008, DiBiase became a multiple-time tag champion in WWE and was part of Randy Orton's stable Legacy before his departure in 2013. When asked by a fan if he would consider wrestling again for WWE, the second-generation wrestler gave the response, "Never say never." DiBiase may have his eyes on a WWE return, but the Mississippi government has their eyes on Ted, as he and many others were charged earlier this year with embezzling funds set aside for nonprofit charity work, which never took place. If a WWE return does happen, it'll be interesting to see what DiBiase would do, as both his old mentor Randy Orton and his former tag team partner Cody Rhodes are both high-profile names in the company. Any return would hinge on Triple H wanting to rehire Ted DiBiase Jr., who hasn't wrestled since his 2013 exit, but if the game gives him a call, the son of the $1 Million Man could be back with WWE. More return news now, as with the positive changes Triple H has made since taking over creative, it's no wonder why many wrestlers are eyeing a comeback. It turns out that it's not just the wrestlers who are looking for a second chance, but veteran WWE official Jack Doan wouldn't say no to an offer. Speaking to Sportskeeda, Doan was asked about a return and said that he'd love to come back, but it's a decision he'd have to discuss with his new wife, who he married in July of this year. Doan explained that his wife has never been in the wrestling business, but that he would love to return to WWE and hopes to at some point down the line. Doan was hired by the WWF in 1991 and would become one of the longest tenured refs until his release in 2013, but we can't count out the veteran official donning the stripes under the new regime. And we're ending today with Ric Flair, who had his final match in July, but has since teased having future matches. Now the Nature Boy has alluded again to his future in wrestling, sharing an image of his original 2008 retirement match with Shawn Michaels. Flair tweeted that winners never quit and quitters never win, which some have taken as a sign that Flair won't quit wrestling just yet. To many people, the WrestleMania 24 match with Michaels should have been Flair's last match and would have been a fitting send-off for his career, but the Nature Boy is finding it difficult to hang up his boots and robe. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.